Howdy, welcome to my Far Cry New Dawn review. This is a post-game save, so hopefully there shouldn't be anything related to the story in it. If some ambient chatter comes up, then I apologise. Far Cry New Dawn is simultaneously one of the best and worst in the series. Hello. The story is absolute garbage trash, and soured me in the game incredibly because as the story goes on it gets more and more dumb. But that's mostly because of the fact that the gameplay is sufficiently good that it just makes the whole thing a letdown from the story. Like, there's missions where you have to do things and sneak into places to get access to things that I could just walk in and shoot. I could sneak in and shoot. Like, the stealth in this game is still quite easy, and my good friend here, Timber, is one of the most overpowered buddy characters I've ever had in one of these games, because he can solo entire outposts, and it still gets me undetected bonuses when a dog mauls everyone inside a base. But the final two story missions against bosses are just painfully bad. You're okay. They're horrible bullet sponges who are able to 1-2 shot you. It does feel very much like the game expects you to have ground out a lot more of the side missions before you get there. But here's the thing. Let's have a quick look at that map. I've done all the side missions, apart from two, which involve going around the country looking for photographs and going around the country looking for MP3 players. Now, I bought a map to help me find both of those things. But there's no way to filter this map to be able to, search for things that you actually want. You have to zoom in, and zoom in, and zoom in, and zoom in. And it's only about this level of zoom that you can actually see things like the photographs and the MP3 players that you're looking for. So have fun scouring the map looking for those tiny little icons and not being able to switch off any of the other icons on the screen. So that's why I haven't bothered to do the collectathons. Other than that then, there's the outposts you can capture. You can also scavenge them to get more in-game currency and then take them over again at a higher difficulty, which the game expects you to do over and over again because the upgrade costs for your home base get incredibly expensive to be able to do stuff like have more health or make better guns. Because it's kind of a light RPG aspect to it, and that you get like different grades of guns, like level 2 guns do less than 3, do less than 4, and the bosses expect you to have level 4 guns. I didn't, so I had a really bad time. But other than rebrewing the same outposts over and over again at higher difficulties to be able to get more ethanol to upgrade your weapons, you can also do things like expeditions, where you can fly out of the map and go to other areas, which are relatively interesting. Like, they're actually new maps and new areas to explore, like a crashed aircraft carrier. And if they didn't have incredibly long load times, I'd have probably been more interested in doing more of them. It's a good 2 to 3 minute load to get there and a good 2 to 3 minute load to get back. And there's no option to chain them together because it always takes you back to this map of Hope County. So you can't even try and go from one expedition to the other to expedite the process. You have to sit through the loading screen to take you back to Hope County and then choose another expedition to go on and then sit through another loading screen to go there. The whole thing's playable in co-op. If I knew anyone who had it, I would have tried it, but nobody seems to want to buy this video game, and I can't really blame them. Like, at €50, it does feel a bit expensive for what's actually here. Like, I managed to clear the map of everything but the main story missions that were available to me in about 10 hours, and then the remaining story has taken me about 6. And that's with one of them being an hour being just fighting stupid bosses with guns that don't do enough damage. I imagine there'd be a bit more playtime to stuff like, doing those outposts over and over again and doing expeditions, but given how much of it you spend looking at loading screens, I just don't want to do that. There's a lot of random things where, trucks will try and run you over. But it's okay, because my dog can pick me up. It's not entirely clear how it does that, but hey, works for me. There's a lot of ambient things that happen, where just random people will attack each other. But the post-apocalyptic setting doesn't really work for the game either. Like, my home base has got about 24 people in it, and apparently that's quite heavily populated. I've killed 527 people in this game over the course of the campaign. Like, I've depopulated a small nation, and yet you know, post-apocalyptic, it's apparently fine. There's still tons of things to pick up. There's still tons of animals to hunt. There's still tons of people to kill. The setting doesn't really do anything for the game. It just means that you have to make your own weapons, like making an M249 from some scraps that you find. It just feels wasted. Wasted opportunity. Like, given they're using the Hope County map again, this is their next Far Cry Primal. They're just trying to get something at the door to get some more money. If two of my friends had this and I got it for 10 to 15 quid, I'd probably keep it to do the expeditions with them in co-op, and it'd probably be more fun. But as is, I was just bored for most of my playtime. Like, the actual gameplay is still fine. It's still amongst the best that Far Cry does, because Far Cry is still a good video game. Like, it feels more like a sequel to Far Cry 3 than anything else, actually, now I think about it. Your character's mute. You don't have any choices or options in dialogue. You explore an island. The wingsuit's practically useless to you, because there's not very many in the way of mountains to actually use it with, and you just clear outposts. And that's the most fun part of the game, is the parts where you're clearing outposts. So yeah, it's a lot more like Far Cry 3 Classic than it's like Far Cry 4 or 5. Also, to its benefit, there's very few occasions where you get shot with a magic dream bullet while you're driving a car or a plane and forced to listen to some bad guys monologuing. There's still some bad guy monologues, but they're much shorter and they're generally triggered at your choice. So at least the story is better than 5. Yeah, I didn't really enjoy my time with it that much. I can't really recommend it for the price it is. It goes down cheaper, it might be more worthwhile, but the story is just abhorrent. Just terribly, terribly bad. I probably won't go into the spoilers territory too much there, just because the fact the game's only been out for a day. But yeah, it's just not very good at all. I'd say rent if you can, or borrow from a friend, because you'd finish the whole thing in 10 to 12 hours if you really want to. Or just stop. I'd recommend just stopping.